Network Today, where we take you from meeting people to
making money
faster. Well, to touch or not to touch? That is the question today. This could go any way.
Absolutely. It's a big thing, and I'm glad we're discussing it because people need to know the proper etiquette here, Sheryl.
Especially, we've gone through some really weird times the past several years for sure, and people have very strong feelings about it. Are you a hugger?
I'm a hugger.
Are you?
But I'm learning because of what we're discussing today that you've got to be careful. You've got to know the warning signs, and that's what we're going to be talking about today.
That's right. To touch or not to touch. You're going to like this because we're going to go through some bullet points, really things to do, things not to do, really best practices. And I think it's important when you're talking about, did you grow up culturally hugging people?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, our family was a hugging family. So yeah, it was easy for me to become a hugger. So.
And your dad was a military dad, and he was still huggy, right?
Yeah.
My dad was a Marine, and he was not. Hugging was not a part of our protocol at all. And I guess I was cool with that. But until I was never really huggy. Maybe my friends might have been huggy, but I don't know. We just played. We didn't hug each other. Right. Then I go to ORU. I go to college. And everybody's hugging everybody. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to get with it. And so these things can be learned. In your case, you have to learn how not to hug.
Right.
Me, I don't learn how to hug.
The funny thing too is though, I was kind of thinking back when I started networking, which was in like early 90s. And I'm thinking that, the hugging thing wasn't an issue back there. I think it's something that has involved, I'm not saying recently, but maybe the last decade or so. What's your feeling on that?
Honestly, I don't know. I didn't pay that much attention until we really started networking and people, got weird about it.
Yeah.
In radio, we didn't hug at all, right? Because you're just with clients, your colleagues. I'm not going to hug you either way, right? So
exactly.
We weren't huggy. It wasn't really until we get to networking where your professional contacts, connections then become friends.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's when the hugging comes in. So, and I take that back. In my radio days, we did have clients that would become friends, but then you've kind of breached that that professional to friendship bridge, right? So you've gone over it.
And it could be a Southern thing too. It'd be nice to find out if up north they're more professional handshake only, but down south here, they're pretty friendly down here. So I'm wondering if that's part of the culture thing that you mentioned.
It could be, absolutely. And so with that's one of the things we'll talk about in order to be aware of where somebody's coming from. It's funny, we're having this conversation because I was just at an event this past Friday, and one of the speakers, who we both know, said, I don't hug. Don't hug me. Don't ask to hug me. I don't hug. Now, the other speaker, they were all on a panel, the other speaker says, I hug all day long, right? But, either way, it's all good. It's all good. Just know where people are coming from.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk about these different areas of touching in a professional environment.
Okay.
And let's talk about what's good and what's not good,
Okay.
what we should and should not do. So handshakes. What's a safe standard for a handshake for you?
Well, you want to make sure that's not too firm or it's not too long. Some people want to spend 5 minutes shaking your hand.
That's right.
And then again, some guys, they got lots of testosterone in them and they want to make boom, kill you. But yeah, I think it's just a good firm handshake.
Yeah, you don't have to prove anything.
Yeah, there you go.
It's not I'm stronger than you.
Right, exactly.
So
but it's important though because too, you don't want to have that wimpy. You don't want to have that wimpy handshake either. Yeah,
you mean this one?
There you go. Yeah. So something as simple as just having a good firm handshake. You've got to kind of work on it.
Yeah, firm but not crushing.
Yeah. Eye
contact and smiling while you're doing it is important too.
Like that. I like that. Yeah, that's part of the whole thing, the 3-step process. Firm handshake, eye contact, and what was the third one?
Make sure it's firm, make sure you have eye contact, and make sure it's not crushing.
Not crushing.
Right, yeah,
there you go. Okay.
And avoid the prolonged, right? I'm going to prove who I am with my handshake. So hugging use caution.
Yes.
So this is a good section. If somebody is approaching you and you don't know that person, what is some of the body language that tells you, hey, they're coming for me?
Well, I think I can tell if someone's, whether they're new or even if it's a friend that hugged before, that you can see them leaning in. You can see that turn of the shoulders. You can see them leaning in, and hey, this is a hugger.
Yeah. Yes. I feel like it's the eye contact, and I don't know. Sometimes it's so fast that it does get kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I'm not opposed to it, but it does make it awkward if it's not a natural kind of like, oh, hey, And I just like the lighter hugs, not the don't squeeze me.
Right. No, absolutely. Light hug. But I think to me, what I'm watching for is, how well I know the person.
Yeah.
If I've had, a one-on-one with them, really if they've been in my networking circle for, I would say, quite a while, maybe 6 months to a year plus, you've seen them several times.
Yeah.
Then you feel you've had more than your 30-second conversation, that you understand the person a little bit more. You've seen them at other events, and what are they a hugger or not? So I think when you get to know that person, again, it's the whole philosophy of building relationships, that you're going to understand better if they're a hugger or not.
Yeah, when you get to know them, for sure. Just not that first time out.
Yeah.
So brief and light. If you do, brief and light, not long and strong. Don't suffocate me. I do have a dear friend. He's a professional friend, and he is like arms around you, locked in. It's like, hey, buddy, I might get a little uncomfortable here. So let's quickly touch on male versus female hugging. Right, a little easier when it's a male hug.
Right.
What's a male hug that's comfortable for you?
Again, I would say, to be honest with you here, is that with the male hug, is a little firmer. It's kind of that, the whole sports thing, and I would say you probably squeeze a little bit more with the male to male.
Do you do a full body squeeze, or do you kind of do a side squeeze?
It's more of a side
squeeze.
Yeah, side squeeze.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, but what about with women?
Yeah, again, women, very delicate issue here, and it's very light. Making sure there's some gap between two bodies. There's a 12-inch gap there, and it's just kind of a light touch on the back.
Yeah.
And very careful on that.
Yeah. And because, again, some people are very sensitive to that.
Yeah.
Some people could report things like that. Some people are like, oh my gosh, I'm never going there again because, and touching on the back, that's one of the things that when I was reading the articles that they say you have to be careful where you touch people on the back.
Oh, wow.
Upper part of the back, better. Lower part of the back, not so good. Right.
Yeah.
So not that I want to make you overthink this at all, but.
Wow.
So
I'm a big touch the shoulder. Mm-hmm. So how does that relate to?
That's good. Touching the shoulder is good.
Good.
Just never really assuming that people are good with hugs.
Yeah.
I kind of like just a little light side hug, especially when I don't know somebody, and that lets them know that, hey, I'm kind of good with it, but I'm not a full on. Right.
Yeah.
So, here's another. So item number 3 would be keeping it minimal. So you touched on that, and that's light shoulder. I'll tell you, one of my friends, and I think we've talked about this in a former episode, but he was in the restaurant industry, and so they're all about making sure that you're handling all these customers that you don't know very well. And I really liked this approach, and that's you touch their elbow, like it was an elbow touch.
Yeah, I kind of like that too. That you mentioned that, because again, it's not, again, the shoulder is still close to the body, on the body, but the elbow, I kind of like that.
I think it's weird that we're doing an episode about this, actually. It's weird, but it's important.
It is, and I think I'm going to take that tip right there. Matter of fact, I'm writing that tip down.
No.
Try the elbow next time.
Yes, but don't assume that people even like the elbow.
Well, that's okay. That's true.
Yeah, and I probably offended many people because I go for the elbow. Just reading the body language. So what body language tells you, hey, they're not on board with touching, period?
I mean, I can see that how they're standing, and you can see how the shoulders and the body. You can see it sort of leaning back.
Yeah.
And that's I can spot that right away, and therefore I know it's boy, handshake, or sometimes not even a handshake. They're back there going, hey, good to see you.
Yeah.
And that's another point too, is how long you wait to extend your hand if you see the other person not going to extend their hand. That's could be uncomfortable as well.
It's a little awkward. I just say, okay, great.
Okay.
We're not going there.
Yeah.
So that's all right. One less hand I have to wash off of my hand. I'm okay with that. So avoiding waists and lower back, that's a really important part of the
I think that's
minimal touching. And down to alternatives. So let's talk about the fourth section, and that's alternatives. So we talked about the shoulder, we talked about the elbow. You brought up something right before we started that you liked.
Yeah, I think something good that you can kind of make this fun and casual is like, hey, are you a handshaker or a high fiver, and go for especially with guy to guy, where guys like to throw the high five.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Women not so much.
Yeah, probably not so much women.
Yeah.
Well, hey, talk about you're giving the fist punch here. That's the fist punch. That's becoming popular now.
Yeah. So it's a way to not be so invasive, and I think that people, I can't help but think that post-pandemic is what all the articles would refer to, PP. I can't help but think that it's a kind of a germ warfare defense system, like hands are germy,
right?
And they're concerned about that. So let's talk about some others. Some people just like a nod. Some people like an elbow bump. I've never done that.
Yeah, I've not done the elbow bump. No. But I think it really, Sheryl, I think it just boils down to where you are in that relationship with that person. Is it someone you're just meeting for the first time? If it's someone that, hey, you've been hanging out for 2 or 3 years, and I think that is sort of a sign of helping us in our journey with meeting new people. Is you just keep it simple, do the handshake, boom, and then start the relationship, get to know them, and let it evolve. And I think the body touching comes from that. I think.
Yeah, it does, and it. Really the bottom line is what you said, just looking at them, paying attention to the details, and being conscious of the fact that there are other cultures that aren't Texas cultures, right? That aren't Southern cultures, that aren't Canadian cultures, where everybody comes in for the big old group hug. They bow, or they nod their head, or they do other things, but it's not a physical contact.
Right.
And so they're very uncomfortable with that. And so it was a little interesting learning journey for me to consider this, especially because now I have friends, diametrically opposed.
Right.
One, bring it in, I love you, I want to hug you forever, and the other one saying, stop it, don't touch me.
On the other side of the coin too is just I let the other person make the first move.
Yeah.
You can stick your hand out for the handshake, but then you see them moving in, then it's an easy spread the arms and boom. So just kind of watch from that body language point of view.
Yeah. But when in doubt, leave it out.
I like
when
that. When in doubt, leave it out.
Here's what we can do. All right. So as you wrap this up, our Network Today touching episode. So, to touch or not to touch, that is the question. So one could do this, right? Hey, Bucky Buddy. Good seeing you today. That could be a non-invasive touch, right?
There you go. Absolutely.
They didn't do the cheers on here.
That's right. I never did that one. There's a new one.
There's a new one to add to the list.
Number
you can just
5.
Cheers.
Number 5.
That's right. That's right. So Network Today, where we take you from meeting people to
making money.
And we're going to see you Soon, 8/1 is Connect Fest, the big annual conference. It'll be our 4th, and we're going to just have an amazing lineup for you here shortly.